Hello, everyone. I know it has been a long time, but I have returned bearing gifts. Um, while working on a different project, I figured out how to add your clothing to your MetaHuman rig and any type of hair base. Um, so, in this video, I will be showing you how to do such things and along with some other stuff I found along the way. All right. So, the process for adding your character, adding clothes to your character is pretty simple. Um, I had this, if I can show you it, I had the clothes rigged inside of a software called MetaHuman Tailor and or MetaTailor. I basically took the, if I can find it, took the MetaHuman character import because I wanted to make sure that the clothes were the size of the actual MetaHuman when it's inside of Houdini. And so I used the MetaHuman character import, imported both the geo and the capture pose, I, and then exported the character as a FBX and brought that into MetaTailor. And that's how I was able to ensure that the clothes actually fit the MetaHuman. I'm pretty sure you can export the MetaHuman as a FBX from Unreal. Pretty sure there's a process to do that, but I want to make sure that the clothes fit the MetaHuman, so I did that process. Um, and then I brought the clothes in here once I had them set up how I liked it. And there's a little error right here. So I removed the cape completely because I know I want to run a vellum sim for the cape, so it doesn't really need to be animated unless you want to. Then the cape is rigged, so you could have your fun with that. But for me, I wanted to run a vellum sim over it, so I decided to remove it, and that's what I did here. And basically gave the FBX name to the name, and this is very important later on down the line. Um, this helps you set up your materials. And so I then grouped each piece based off of what material they used. As you can see, the cloth is together, the coat material is together, mask, boots. And again, this process is extremely important down the line. It makes things easier. And so then I brought in my hair base, and this is a little thing I added to give this a name variable, but I did not need to use it. Um, but there is if I clicked on it, you can see it just gives it a name. But being that before I set up the dreadlock base inside of Houdini, and then I packed it, and then exported it. Sorry, I packed it and then rigged that using an attribute transfer. If I can show you. Yeah, the actual process I did to rig the head base to the metahuman, or you can do this with any character, but I did this for my metahuman. Um, was I imported the character. This will be a FBX character if you were doing any other type of humanoid character, but for metahuman, I use the meta damage character import, and it is important to look for this attribute, the bone capture attribute, because you could then, if I brought out this file just to give you a visual, I brought it right here. So say if it was, say if it didn't have the bone capture attribute, you could just do a attribute transfer and transfer that attribute, the bone capture, and to test that it works, you could do a bone deform to ensure that you like the way that the attribute was transferred. This will be the rest point transform, and then do a rig pose. Um, and basically, just choose a point, rotate it, and down here you can see it rotates with it. And so that's how you know that is rigged, and that is the setup. But again, you want to look for this attribute and transfer it over. It's a lot easier with hair bases, um, or at least, yes, it's a lot easier with hair bases because as you can see, I packed it out and there is not a lot of deformations that are happening. Um, so you can get away with a very simple attribute transfer. And that's how I rig the hair to move along with the rig. And so when that is done, and before I move on, yes, this attribute, because it is going off of the rig that I brought into Houdini, and this is the very same rig that is being run through here. The clothing is actually rigged to the same rig. As you can see, it has the bone capture attribute, and so I did not need to do a attribute transfer for that. However, if you have modeled your clothes, then you can use that process. Um, if you've modeled your clothes and they don't have the bone capture. And again, for things like capes and stuff like that, you know you want simmed. Even the shirt and pants I plan on simming, but it just makes it a easier process for me and more of a visual when I'm animating. And so you can have that set up. And so once you have exported that out with a file cache, make sure it is not time dependent. Let's bring that back. You then have the image out, and then you're going to be brought into the next setup, which is the Ragdoll setup. And this was a lot quicker. I beforehand when I set up Ragdoll, it took a longer time and it took a longer time researching in order to figure out how to get the Ragdoll to work. With the new setup that they have, or recipe that they have for Ragdolls, it made the process a lot easier, and all I had to do was tailor it towards MetaHumans. I watched a seminar where they went over how they set up ragdolls for their MetaHuman, and I basically copied that process. And so what they did was grabbed all of the joints that were tagged with driver joints. Um, and if you can see over here, uh, if you look for the tags right here, you can see driver joints. So I had a MetaHuman that had the tag MH driver joints, and so I put that. But if the property for driver joints, the point group, is 0, then just remove the MH. And you should see you have 84 or something relatively close. I know I've had some in the range from 64 to 84 joints, and so once that is done, you want to immediately come over here to the get shape, and right now it's pulling anything that is dot dot shape, and for metahumans that is not really optimal because you can see it's pulling the actual control rig as well. And so just make sure that the pathing is more specific, and that should pull only the base skeleton. Um, I think I have something else previewed, but yes, I do. Yep, the image setup. Okay, so again over here, that is the same issue. If I went back and put star shape, you can see it's pulling the metahuman control rig as well. So again, make sure it's just the base shape. You should be ready to go. If you have hair set up um, within your base shape, because that's where the clothing and the hair will be saved under is the base shape. You want to then blast out everything that you will not need. Definitely make sure that you blast out the hair. If I can find it, it is right here. Blast out everything that you do not need for the metahuman. I mean for the collision shapes. And I think I need to blast out the boots as well because I want to sim the two ends right here. And that's going to create a weird shaping, which was going to create a weird deformation once you have the ragdoll set up. So once that is done, let it create the collision shapes. Once you have cleared what you needed to clear to create the collision shapes, you then want to enter the point group, um, the driver joints that you've created over here, the point wrinkle. You can see you're creating a group. You want to then put that group in along with anything you do not want to be a part of the shape setup. That's what the upwards arrow is. And so then after that, you want to go down here, and the good thing is, out of the box, almost everything is still able to be keyed. Um, so you don't have to specify everything. However, you do have to specify the spine, but the hands and the leg, IK and FK, you do not. However, if you want to, just to be safe, you should. Um, and so let me go ahead and do that real quickly. Um, you will have to do this. This will automatically reset. So for me, the chest control to the spine. Then I bring the cog to the spine 1. The pelvis to the pelvis control. And that should be enough. You can come down here and see this gives your character a name. I find again later on down the line this the mic here Apex setup is a issue. Um, the mic character at Apex add scene character, or sorry, Apex scene add a character. Um, I found that it caused a issue with the applying of the textures because I ran my MetaHuman through the SOP create and set up the MetaHuman um, there, and within the SOP create, it is looking for a certain path, and adding a character name changes that path. So it is no longer what it's looking for is no longer there because it's up under the my character. Um, as you can see, if I just brought up a unpacked node, you can see what I'm talking about, and it is very important when it comes to the texturing stage to make sure your pathing is correct. And so if you see, I brought out the base shape, just doing a slash base shape, but if I use the my character, apexing add character, you can see all the points left because it is no longer bringing up the base shape. Again, I can show you, uh, again, I didn't have it selected. You can see, brings up the base shape. Move over to my character. It doesn't, that's because you have to go below the my character and then pull out the base shape and you will find it. However, that causes errors with the texture. I can see if there is a workaround real quick because this is necessary for animating your character within a scene. It keeps it clear. And so I would like to see if I can have like a little workaround for that. Um, I'm pretty sure if I brought up the a recipe that I made, you'll see where is that the metahuman scene invoke, and we're going to get into this later. But you can see I am exporting, then unpacking, and then I am repacking. So I wonder if you did a my character unpacked, and my character. Let's see. We do a scene invoke. We brought out the mic here and brought out the base. Let's see if we can follow the same chain. Unpacking. I unpacked everything. Um, it should be just base shape. I brought out the mic here base shape. If I brought this back, did a unpack. I'm doing an unpack to bring out the names. And I brought this back and I packed it back as that. Um, and this is for, well, I'm going to get into it later, but this is for separating the clothes from the metahuman. Uh, but I'm seeing if I can pack that back, and let's see if I brought out a unpacked folder. Let's see if I brought that back into there. That's leaving this unpacked, which is necessary, but so let's not even test that. Test here. Okay, so well, I figured out a workaround right in the video. So you can add your character name, but then in this step, you want to um, repack the metahuman as this. The base output, ba base output, base, I'm sorry, base underscore output underscore base. You want to make sure that it has that name and the type is shape, SHP. You want to make sure you have that. So then the pathing looks like this. This is the output you need. Um, slash base underscore output base shape. So that's good to know. Um, so you can go ahead and use the My Care Apex Scene add, but I'm not going to do that. I'm pretty sure it works the same if I brought it in. Having something weird going with the hair. Uh, don't worry, that will render how it's supposed to. As you can see, as I go in, it fixes itself. But then if I bring in the Ragdoll, you can see the Ragdoll comes out, and you can see it's named up under my care. And if I just press play, you can see it falls over. And because we did the character mapping with the chest and all of that jazz, we can then go and press Control G, go to baked, and go back and just start recording. Let it play. You want to make sure baked onto new layers is selected. Again, let it play. Let the guy do whatever he's going to do. And you will see once it's done, he is falling over all ragdolly. And then you can press stop whenever you want. If you want to see the actual layer, you can go to the animation, go to uh, Apex animation layers, and you will see the ragdoll is on its own layer. So it is rendering, I mean, it is keyframing on a different layer, even though you don't have this up. You just need to bring this up to see that layer. Um, so there you go. I got the joint configurations from a motion clip that they provided. It is provided by, I want to say side effects, but I have brought in that motion clip and stashed it. This is the motion clip they use for Electra, and I just converted it to the, well, you can't see it here. I just converted it to the MetaHuman. As you can see, it's all over the place. I don't know why that just happened, but you can see right here, all of it is being configured. I don't know why the points just went everywhere, but it will not have much of an issue, as you can see. So, characters all discombobulated. Then you want to save that out. Not the scene. That's just to test and make sure that it works. And again, you can do that whole entire getup that I'm about to get into to keep the name of the character, but when it is exported to the stage output, everything works well. Okay, so once you have that saved, you then output that and bring it into here. The MetaHuman close scene, as you can see, the same setup that I have is a recipe that I made. Again, for me the shirt and pants are going to be simmed, so it should be fine with the little bits and pieces you see. You saw it in the Ragdoll where the skin was poking through the pants. Um, so this is the major part. You have your animation or whatever you want from the character. You want to bring it into this setup right here. You can do a Apex scene right into this. I'm just setting this up to make it look good for the tutorial, but you can have your scene right here and then just pump that into the scene invoke, because that is what the scene invoke is pulling from, is the actual scene. Um, and so then you do the unpacked, and if I go back over here, you can see it's everything, but want to make sure it's the base shape. Um, and then you unpack it, unpack it. Unpacking it brings back the naming convention for this. As you can see, it brings back the name. If I went over here, you can see it brings back the name, and that's what you need. You need for the clothes to be unpacked, but the character to stay packed because it's looking for instanced character, the stop create. And so you then merge that, and that's how you get your character rigged with your clothes and ready to be sent to the stage. Um, and so in the stage level, we'll see why is it so important. If I went back, sorry, I had the thing ready for a previous that I had set up, the video at the beginning of the tutorial. So let's click back. You can see I'm bringing in my character right here. If I went to the Karma XPU, you can see that character is being brought in the Here is being changed to the values I had set. And so this is why the naming convention is so important. As you can see, the base human still has the instance mesh, but the clothes are unpacked. And that is important because when I was adding the clothes the first time, um, I found that I was having an issue where if I had the clothes packed, then the metahuman skin would render. But when I had the clothes unpacked, or basically everything unpacked, then it would be the clothes and not the metahuman. So I needed to figure out how to get them both satisfied so that they could render at the same time. And that's how I came to the conclusion that I needed to figure out a way to have the metahuman be packed, but um, the clothes be unpacked. And so you have that going on right here. And the cool thing about Solaris is that if the naming convention works, if you have it set up the same exact way and the pathing is the same, then you can have this node be the animations, and that's what I had, and this node be the just the texturing, adding the textures onto the character. And that's how I had this set up. So basically what you would do is do all the look div on a different all the look dev on a different file, and then bring that file in, and then have the animations that you have for whatever scene you want. On this node, make sure that the pathing matches and the animation should take over with the textures being placed on top. As you can see. But again, you want to make sure that the base output base shape is the last thing in your pathing. That's the only reason why this works. So what I was saying beforehand, when you could go over here and add the let it load. Add the character name is because in the end you will not be using this name. You will be getting rid of this name for the metahuman. Um, this is just for the animation. Well, when it comes to unpacking it, you want to make sure that it has that name right here. And once that's completed, you will have your metahuman all set up with clothes and any hair base that you have, and with Ragdoll. I will be dropping the file you see here inside of the description so that you can find it and go and set up your own metahuman. I will say, because this Ragdoll setup works with really any UE character. So if you have a character that you already have rigged, it's going to be the same issue that you have here with the add character, but higher along the line. So you want to make sure that again it is pulling from, it will be the character, it will be your slash care name, and that's whatever your character name is, and then pull out the base scale. And you want to do the same thing for the base shape, and down here in the Character mapping, you can see is looking for just the base rig. You want to add your slash character thing there so it can have the right pathing. Um, and the same thing for the ragdoll, and then you should be good. As you can see, it's looking for the slash base scale. If you want to do like slash anything base scale, then you could do that, or just anything slash base scale, you can do that. But I say make sure for this, make sure that the pathing is more specific so you can have less errors down the line. But it's pretty much the same setup. As you can see, I can have the whole previous thing set up. Um, is there anything else? Not much, not much. I pretty much said everything, so I will catch you guys. Oh, if you want to know how to get a more personalized look of your MetaHuman, let me know. I will create a video on how I did that. Let's see. Or if you want a tutorial on how I did the dreadlocks and the base hair, I will drop a tutorial on that. Oh, there's one more thing I need to show. I forgot. Um, it's the whole makeup of the MetaHuman. So I will be right back and I will show you the last part of it, and then you should be good to go. Okay, we're in the file that I have set up for the making of the MetaHuman. As you can see, it's a little bit more messy. Um, that's because I was racking my brain trying to figure out how to get this thing to work. Um, so what I wanted to do is go into here and see and show you why the grouping was important. Actually, the grouping wasn't important, but you can see not the grouping, the naming, um, the transferring of the FBX name to the actual name of the primitive was important. Is because I could have showed this in the other file, but we're here. Um, you can see that the FBX material name is the name of the primitives, so it makes it easier to assign the materials to the actual character. And there is a neat little trick I did where have a if you have a bunch of um, textures with a similar naming convention, you can just have a null node with the name of the textures you want to bring in, and you set up one material setup that has the AO, the base color. Basically, that is for a Unreal texture that had the occlusion, roughness, and metallic all in one file, and so I just brought that in and then separated that. Um, but I didn't need it for this. So you have the roughness, metallic, setup, normals, and if they have a height, you can do it for the height too. You basically have that all set up and just change the name. As you can see, if I clicked on it and went over it, you can see this little code right here, and that is basically pointing to the parameter I set up in the null node, and just bring in a string and change the name to name, and you should be set to go. And then you could just come back out, change the overall name to wherever you want, and then go into here and just change the name, and it should bring in the other textures. And that's what I did with this, and then backed out, brought in, and assigned it to the primitives or the geo. And that's how I have my character set up. If you want to know how to do the hair, again, I will show you in a different video. But that is it. Again, I want to thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you found it useful. Again, I will have the file in the description, and it should be easy to use. Follow along with the video to make it more personalized for your character. Um, but there you go. Hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you in the next video.